Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever it is in the world you are streaming. Here in the Bleacher Report app, it's time for another edition of NBA Daily with your boy Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob. What's happening out there in the world? 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, noon on the islands. Aloha to all of you out there. All righty. Well, it's that time in the summer where we need to start brainstorming some topics as we head to the NBA's offseason. We have reached Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The way things are looking right now with that Tyrese Halliburton injury, we may only have one game left on the schedule. And while we here at Bleacher Report, I think I've done a pretty decent job of going over all of last night's events and what to look forward to in that Game 6. At some point, the attention is going to shift to the offseason because there are 28 other franchises and fans of franchises that are looking to the future. What's the next step, right? Now, I thought it would be pertinent for us to discuss the status of each notable NBA front office and tier these situations, if you will, because there are some teams in better spots than others. Let's be completely honest here. There are some teams that have their championship window open. For example, the shirt of the team that I'm wearing right now in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Where would they be in your consideration for future assets? Should they try and go for it next season by assembling these win now type of assets and pieces if they haven't already? And reminder, if you do something like that, you're likely liquidating a lot of your future currency. Well, that's the whole purpose of this stream today, as we are titling this Wobb's Teams with Make or Break Off Seasons in the three separate categories. I'm just pulling up the chat so I can see you guys joining us as well. Okay, I'm here. You're here. This is a two-way street, by the way. It's a content democracy, so feel free to leave your chats and I will react to them. For example, my favorite commenter is Spicy Sponge, who says, my favorite yapper, Worldwide Wob, is back. Indeed. I am a professional yapper. Now, there are some professionals in front offices across the NBA that it's their job to go out there and assemble your team to either be championship ready or planning for the future while still remaining competitive. Like, where would you put the Boston Celtics considering their situation? Let's go to now or never. And these are the five teams that I put into this specific tier, starting with the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, and the 76ers. What do a lot of these have in common, chat? What do a lot of these, the common denominator with each of these teams is you would consider all of them, if the 76ers were healthy, you would think that they are playoff competitors that have players on their team that make them think that we are, if the stars align, that we would be legitimate championship contenders and or have championship aspirations. There's star power on each of these teams with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Luka Doncic, LeBron, Anthony Davis, if Kyrie Irving comes back healthy at some point, Nikola Jokic, obviously, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, all the way down the line. And that's why they all are categorized as now or never, because these five franchises are in a spot where when their stars, either their talent and potential expires and father time catches up to them, what's going to happen? They're making a lot of money. They will fall out of contention. And then you are not sending them into the market to return pieces that would yield the same type of assets in the future that you would get if you traded them at their zenith, in their peak. So these franchises right here know who they are. They know what they have, and they need to supplement their star power that is towards the end of their careers and or dealing with injuries with win now pieces. The championship window is open. But under this current collective bargaining agreement, let's not forget that the championship window is shorter than ever because this is the age of parity. This new collective bargaining agreement has made it very difficult to retain talent around your stars. So what it did was, we hear you small markets, you're Your favorite player is always going into unrestricted free agency and joining the big Lakers franchise and all the big cities. Well, here, we'll give you all of the financial tools necessary to retain them. The problem is that player then eats up 30% of your salary cap, which makes it really difficult to surround said star with the pieces necessary, the depth pieces that are on full display in this 2025 finals that have become necessary to being competitive in a pace and space era. So it's now or never for that Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green team. We know the miles that they have on the odometer. We know how old LeBron is in year 22. We know Kyrie Irving is injured. We know Nikola Jokic and all the MVPs that he's won. We know how many strides Joel Embiid has left on that knee before we have to say goodbye to him as someone who's a superstar in today's game. That is one of those, if they're on your team, you're automatically a championship contender type pieces. So for these 5 teams, I need you to go out there, squeeze every cent you can out of your salary cap, whether that means going into the first apron, the second apron. It is my personal opinion that all 5 of these teams should not be operating underneath the luxury tax. They will need to spend to put together those complementary role players and build that depth in the face of basketball adversity that we are now seeing even with the deepest team in the league in the Indiana Pacers. And we're going to run through the current state of each of these teams really quickly. Yes, they need a center. Jackson Hayes was not the solution. Austin Reeves going to get an extension. LeBron is, my God, how many more years does this guy have left? We know they need that interior defense at some point. They had themselves quite the season with 50 wins. They were part of a blockbuster trade. They're set up with Luka Doncic, but there's not a whole bunch of room out there to spend. This is where we get into the whole cap space. And we're not going to be doing this for every single team today because it would just take too much time. But I want you to get a feel for each of these teams in their current cap space situation. Because if you see red and a minus sign at the top of your screen, these are going to be franchises that are going to be operating in the first and second apron, which limits their capacity and ability to go out there and make their team better, right? You can't aggregate contracts in a trade. You can't be signing those. If you're in the second apron, multiple time offender, you can't be adding those veterans minimum contracts. So chat's on fire right now. What are you guys talking about? Trade Embiid, Lakers. Well, you just put things in the chat and expect me to react to them. I told you, you have to put something of substance for me to call you out and answer a question. You can't just say Lakers suck or like Steph Curry is the best. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. It just doesn't accomplish anything here on today's show. So I'm a professional yapper, but I'm willing to share this microphone with you if you come prepared with some constructive criticism, some feedback, and or ideas for these specific franchises and where they stand going into this postseason, because time is running out for those 5 in particular. Chat wants me to talk about the Sixers. Philly is fine in the East. We're going to be okay. I tend to agree. In Philly specifically. So shout out to Bobby Marks, who puts together these fantastic graphics where you can see they're going to get Jared McCain back, who is probably going to win Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for the injury. Paul George, all sorts of banged up. And the good news for him and Joel Embiid is there's no Team USA that you have to go out there after a playoff run. You're banged up. You can't get any treatment. You're still playing hoops. And they will have the entire offseason to get everyone right with Maxey, George, Embiid, McCain, and whatever else they're able to pull off in this draft or free agency. That salary mark that you see right there, $186 million, is putting them right around the tax threshold, of which they are obviously going to increase as they currently are sitting on the number 5 pick. Is it really number 5? I always thought, I swear they got a top. No, I guess they're not top 3. But this is a team of veterans, right? And we are seeing, yes, veteran experience is certainly essential to getting you through the NBA playoffs, which has proven to be a completely different sport than the regular season. But they're going to need to add some depth to this team. And one of the good pieces of news that they got when they were sitting all their starters and they were putting out those lineups and essentially tanking is all 5 of those guys from your Quentin Grimeses of the world, to your Jared Butlers, whether they end up on the team next year or not, they did get that experience of being out there for 30, 40 minutes a night. And you can put them on that second and third unit, hopefully next season, now that they have gotten a run as a starter in today's game, that someone like the 76ers can use last season's demise to their advantage in the future. My only problem is with Philly that their executives are on the hottest of seats, and this also includes their head coach as well. So Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse knowing this is probably your last season to get to a conference finals at the bare minimum. Otherwise, you're gone. They're going to be making a lot of win now moves, which is why it's now or never. Let's move on to the wild cards. All right. Pelicans, Timberwolves, Magic, Clippers, and Suns. We might as well start with the Magic, right? Because they just went through with this pretty major transaction in the middle of the finals in acquiring Desmond Bane, which is a pretty decent contract considering where the salary cap is headed because of the increase in BRI, which is the basketball-related income. They add Desmond Bane. He's not on a completely detrimental contract. You got Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner going to be part of this franchise moving forward, you would think, for the foreseeable future, because they are coming off their rookie scale extensions at some point. They've got some first-round picks. Jalen Suggs hopefully comes back healthy. And you hope to solve the team's biggest hole in its armor, which was certainly outside shooting. Do you know how bad it got for Orlando, by the way? You go look at three-point percentages from the regular season, and Orlando was not just in the cellar behind teams like the Jazz and the Hornets and the Wizards. They needed Desmond Bane desperately. And yes, it certainly looks like an overpay when you're sending out all of those unprotected first-round picks. But if the Magic wanted to be taken seriously, they were going to need some offense and someone that could certainly complement Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, what they do so well, with Desmond Bane being an outside-in catch and shoot, also can be the spearhead of your offense if it's necessary, that he proved to us in Memphis when John Morant would go down a couple of seasons ago. He was there and the Grizzlies were winning games because of the offense that he could create. But it is a very red screen in front of you now, as Orlando has made their big move, and they are now going to be approaching apron territory, depending on what happens this offseason. And they have gone from that team that can overpay Kentavious Caldwell-Pope because they have so much cap space that is unoccupied, is now been absorbed by the extensions as well as Desmond Bane. So this is going to be the Magic team. And listening to their executives today, they seem pretty set on this being the right fit. And no one's going to complain about all those draft picks and being this far into the apron, into the tax, if the fit works out. And at some point, they needed to say it's go time. That's why what they do this season, it's an expected improvement, but I'm going to put them in the wild card category because they may not be done. The Phoenix Suns are on this list as well, and I'd like to talk about the Pelicans and the Wolves too, if we certainly have enough time. The Phoenix Suns are inevitably going to trade Kevin Durant here in the near future. Now, what they get back, I'm sure they're hoping they get the same type of package that they paid originally, where they've got to send Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and picks and assembling the super team. I don't think the market is like that anymore, right? They're going to get Kevin Durant off the books, which is fine, but you are going to have to match contracts because you are a second apron violator. So you can't aggregate multiple players into a deal. You are limited in who you can work with. You're limited in who you can absorb as a part of any transaction. And I think the market for Kevin Durant is what we see with the package that they receive is not going to be even in the same territory as what Memphis got for Desmond Bane. And then all of you in the chat are going to do your thing. That's what they got for Kevin Durant. They got fleeced. I already know that, you guys, and you're going to say it in that exact tone too. But you have to understand markets here. In if Kevin Durant is going to a team that he's not willing to sign an extension with, the price that you pay for that level of talent, he's still Kevin Durant at 37, but it is not going to be the return that I think a lot of you anticipate. So Bradley Beal's on the books for 110 million, by the way, with a no trade clause. So they're in sell mode as far as I'm concerned, despite having Devin Booker there. And we'll see what type of assets they can get back. I think they're trying to work with Houston for a reason so they can retain some of those picks that went out and get the control of those back. The Timberwolves are on this list because we don't know what's going to happen with Julius Randle. He's headed for an option. Will he be re-signed? Will they be the ones to bring in Kevin Durant, which seems like a perfect fit? You let Julius Randle and his option walk. You fill that spot in the salary cap with Kevin Durant. It feels like an instant upgrade. You've got Terrence Shannon Jr. showed off a whole bunch in that series against OKC. You got Rob Dillingham. You're in a perfect spot, but you also have to pay Naz Reid, right? Naz Reid is certainly going to opt out. Where's that money going to go? You're already approaching the tax threshold. You made that trade for Karl Anthony Towns because you were trying to free up future cap space. So how will that go? And if you trade for Kevin Durant, he says, don't trade me there. Are you willing to do that for just a one-year rental the same way that Toronto did with Kawhi Leonard? And is that enough to get you a title before he leaves? That was a big risk that Masai Ujiri took back in the day. And will Tim Connolly be willing to do the same? Wild card, the biggest of wild cards. And then, by the way, there's the New Orleans Pelicans who are on that list too. And I put them on here because we know them as the team that finished in near last place in the Western Conference, and they suffered more man-hour injuries than any other team, not named the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA this year. Herb Jones is hurt. They're potentially trading Trey Murphy. Who knows what's going to happen with Zion with his off-the-court issues going on, and he isn't on the floor regularly to begin with. CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray's injury as well is going to keep him out for some time. But on paper, this team is pretty damn good, and they're going to be picking. And after today's trade, you see that number 4 on the right side of your screen. They traded with the Indiana Pacers while they're still in the finals. They're going to have multiple picks here. Not too shabby. So, I think those numbers are off, aren't they? Maybe these graphics were taken before, those graphics were built before the lottery. I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate. It might be. So apologies either way. I'll fact check that after you guys sign off. But in addition to that, I thought the New Orleans Pelicans roster on paper was one of the best in the Western Conference, but between the injuries and guys not being able to stay out there on the floor, between Zion and whatever, it didn't all come to fruition. And we never saw that team play together once with Brandon Ingram, the full unit that they had built the previous offseason never quite literally was reality. They never had concurrent minutes with their true starting 5 roster. So a team that probably should have qualified for the playoffs directly, at least on paper. The direction that they take next season, considering their draft pick and considering their stars' availability, we have no clue what they are up to. And oh, by the way, they've had complete overhaul in that front office as well. So what is the directive moving forward? Let's see. Cheyenne in the chat says the Pelicans were getting dog walked by Golden State before we got Jimmy. New Orleans needs depth and a better head coach. The status of Willie Green certainly is going to be in question too. But dog walked by Golden State? I understand that the game is played on court, not paper, but at some point you got to build a roster and see how it. I understand this is an NBA 2K. Right? The Pelicans, I don't play 2K, but I imagine the Pelicans have a pretty good team in the video game, right? So do the Phoenix Suns. I bet the Bucks are awesome. Those are be the 3 teams I think about playing with their individual star power. That does not translate to real life. I believe we have one more category to get through. We are tiering NBA teams with make or break off seasons. And now we're going to go to the pole position tier. And these are the teams, in my opinion, that are going to, and I wish I could fit the Mavericks on here. These are teams that feel like they're either one move away, but we have the option to make that move, and we are content whether we make it or not. So pole position is more being afforded the luxury of optionality. And I should have put the Dallas Mavericks on here just so I could say that the state of Texas is going to run the NBA offseason. They control everything from the first overall draft pick to the best packages that could be put together for some of these quote unquote disgruntled stars, of which occur more times than not in today's game. So if Giannis at some point does become available in Milwaukee, it is my personal opinion, without knowing anything that you guys don't, that the San Antonio Spurs are going to be at the front of the line to make that happen. And that's why I probably wouldn't trade for Kevin Durant, even though it would cost you significantly less, because I think they're going to make the Bucks drown in their own mediocrity as Damian Lillard is out of the lineup this upcoming season. The Bucks realize, like, we're barely a first-round team. We're going to get our torches snuffed by whoever we play in the first round. And this feels like just an inevitable venture of purgatory. But the Spurs with Steph Castle, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan. They somehow got De'Aaron Fox without having to give up any of that. They've got a top draft pick coming in too. Nobody can put together a package better than these San Antonio Spurs. And oh, by the way, they're completely content with just going about the season with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, which was the goal of us building this team this way to begin with. They have a contract in Harrison Barnes that you see on the screen here that they could package if they want to import one of those players that's on a steeper contract. You take Harrison Barnes, you pair him alongside a Vassell or a Castle, depending on the quality of the player that you are getting back. And you can make the math work, because this team at $147 million in projected salary has all sorts of flexibility. So they can do it. They can do it. Now, I definitely know those numbers on the right side of the screen are incorrect, because they were listed before the draft lottery. These graphics were probably created then. With all of that said, yes, San Antonio, and then there's Houston, who continuously tells us that whether it's Rafael Stone, Ime Udoka, we are holding the line. They are trying to emulate what the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are also in pole position, obviously, they're trying to emulate what OKC has built on their 4-year plan. It takes 2 years of tanking and struggling and assembling picks and then getting them onto the floor, getting them that experience, and then finishing like OKC did in a 3-way tie at the top of the Western Conference last season. The Houston Rockets finished second, and they feel like, well, next year we can take that leap to be in the best team in the West. But I ask Houston, who's your Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Who's going to end up on the podium for MVP? Is that Jalen Green already? Doesn't feel like it. Is that Alperen Şengün? Love him to death, but that's a big ask. And to be on that Oklahoma City plan that you are trying to emulate, you're going to have to expedite the superstar development of at least someone on this roster. Is it Amen Thompson? He's not being included in any of these deals. And they want to continue to build from within, because it's the culture and the nastiness and violence and aggression that this team plays with. If you are to liquidate some of those assets and bring in a star, the fabric of which what has gotten you here may be split up. The chemistry of a star may not want to play that level of defense and get into fights defending Dillon Brooks for all we know. So with that said, OKC, obviously, as they're about to win a title, not only are they about to win a title, they're about to get Nikola Topic back, their lottery pick from last year, who has been on the injured reserve for a majority of the season, bouncing between the G League and whatnot, because the Miami Heat decided to go and make the playoffs and get swept. Now they lost their protection on their first-round pick to Oklahoma City. So now OKC's got 2 first-round draft picks. They've got last year's lottery pick, and they have everyone locked up long term. They have all the makings of the next dynasty by far. And then there's, of course, the New York Knicks, who are going to feel like maybe we should be in the market for the Kevin Durant's or the Giannis's, depending on who's head coach here. But they have a team that just made the conference finals. They still need a head coach, but they're going to feel just fine, I would think, running it back with this particular team that all took pay cuts or didn't maximize their extensions to the most that they absolutely could be. If they didn't do that, if they had plans on obviously on leaving, or the Knicks are going to take those team friendly deals and just load up on one star, I think the Pacers proved that you need to have depth. And that is something the Knicks will look to do while staying under the second apron this offseason. Just to recap really quickly, the now or never tier includes teams that have aging stars that are still championship worthy. Your Steph Curry's, your LeBron's, your Joel Embiid's, even, Jokic. I'm not saying that it's close to the career's ending, but you feel like you've got them on the roster. Let's put the best team together that we can right now. Our championship window is not nearly as open as some of the other teams that are building for the future. So Warriors, Lakers, Mavs, Nuggets, and 76ers, especially considering that Joel Embiid, Nate. The wild cards are going to be teams that have influence on what everyone else does. And we saw that with the Orlando Magic, going from a team with a ton of space and flexibility to now go soaring into the luxury tax, but filling a fit in a need. The Phoenix Suns are going to be moving. Kevin Durant. What are the Timberwolves going to do with Julius Randle? What's up with Zion Williamson down there and Trey Murphy in New Orleans? Those are big names that could be on the move to one of these teams in pole position that have all the flexibility in the world. The Houston Rockets can put together any package with Reed Shepherd, who can't even crack the rotation while still staying young. The San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, Steph Castle, all of these picks and young players could put together a package for anybody. The OKC Thunder about to win a title, getting last year's lottery pick back, multiple first-round picks coming up. They are built for the future with guys under contract like the New York Knicks and Cavs on favorable team deals where everyone seems to like each other. And there you have it. Your tiers with make or break off seasons. I'm Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob. If you guys enjoyed this edition of NBA Daily today, I'm back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern. Till then, I will see you on the timeline.